Yay! We are back. And tonight I've been seeing a lot of stuff on the platform, Twitter. And it was brought to my attention from my good friend. He sent me the tweet, if we're still calling them that, which was these, I guess, messages that James Gunn had sent either to Sean Gunn or something, or screen grabs of tweets that James Gunn had put up 11 years ago. So right off the bat, we got to cut the mustard there. 11 years ago, people's minds change, people's opinions change, but we're going to dig into those. But first, full disclosure, I've worked for Warner Brothers on quite a few projects. So, and I'll name a few, not to just toot my horn, but to just let the audience know that, I'm going to be talking some mad shit about Warner Brothers here, and I've worked for the Warner Brothers. So it's not like, you know, if I'm saying stuff, trust me, they don't care about what goes on the internet. So it's okay that I can talk shit about a company I work for, and I will probably work for them in the future. So I worked on Nights and Road. I worked on 3 Nicholas Sparks films that were all put out by Warner Brothers, produced by Warner Brothers. Nights and Road was one of them. That was a movie with Diane Lane and Richard Gere. I did The Last Song with Miley Cyrus and Greg Kinnear. The Choice was another one that I did. I also worked on Journey to the Mysterious Island that had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it, as well as Michael Caine. I worked on Where the Millers, which had Jennifer Aniston, Jason Sudeikis. I did a couple of episodes of One Tree Hill as an actor, and I worked on a couple of episodes of One Tree Hill as part of the crew. So I have a history, a deep. I get residual checks from Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers and I get along, but I haven't been happy with Warner Brothers since David Zaslav took over, especially when it comes to DC and what they've kind of done with the DCEU and the DCU and everything that's been going on. And I wanted to kind of address the pros and cons of James Gunn. And first, I'll get into some pros. Is he a competent director and writer? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's competent. He knows exactly what he wants when he shoots it. He knows how to blend great action sequences together, although some things are taken from other movies. It's really hard to make something original these days. Everything's been done, or you've been influenced by something you saw. Maybe you obtained it and put it in the back of your mind because it was like, yay, Tiger Town, I'm doing a live stream. And the review show is here too. Cool. Austin's a great guy. You guys check out the review show. And I don't know, Tiger Town, do you have a stream? I don't know. Go check out his channel too. I don't know if he's got a channel. I'm going to look at that. So let's circle back. James Gunn, solid director, understands how to write and produce and action sequences, although kind of takes him from other movies, which is okay. It's one thing to pay homage to something. It's something else to steal it all together. And sometimes there's a big blurry line in between paying homage and stealing full sequences. But I digress. So I think James Gunn's going to do a good job with the DCU. But I think he's going to do a good job for what hey, hello, what's going on? Happy Power Rangers Day. I didn't even know it was Power Rangers Day. Yes, I hope your weekend. It's very sad that Bob Barker passed away. Love that guy. And Arlene Sorkin. Oh, she did the voice of Harley Quinn. Yeah, it's been a rough for talent these days. But let's get back. I got to get back to. Hey, George, what's up, man? Yes, all is well. Hope all is well with you. Let's get back to James Gunn, though. So, competent film director, competent. He's good. But I think what he's going to make is something, and I get it, that he enjoys, okay, going forward. I'm not necessarily sure it's what everyone will enjoy going forward. And sometimes directors get blinders on because they forget about the audience. And I feel like that might be something that is going to happen in the future. But let's talk about when James Gunn got the keys to the car. And James Gunn, love your content, Sean. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, when James Gunn got the keys to the car, Black Adam was not yet released or was going to be released. I called it. I don't know. You guys could go back. You can check the record. I called it for almost a year that James Gunn was going to be the head of the DC universe, that they were going to make him head of the studio. I've got the receipts to prove it. I even did a video, all Twitter's posts that I'd putting out and hitting James Gunn with these things. Hey, buddy, I'm hearing things, and he wouldn't come clean. I think it was because James Gunn uh, had already been discussing taking over, but wanted to get over his wedding and his honeymoon and all that before he hit the ground running. And he had already been contracted to write a Superman film, which I do believe was supposed to star Henry Cavill. We can get into that in a little bit. So yeah, I've got the receipts. I called it. And so, but what my fear is going forward is he got the keys to the car and he's driving this bad boy off a cliff. And I think he made a couple of missteps. I think a lot of people would agree with me. What's up, Anthony? I think a lot of people would agree with me when I say that James Gunn should have kept his mouth shut about rebooting the cinematic universe. He should have let the movies get released and let them play out before his Superman movie was announced. People would have gone nuts when they heard that James Gunn was going to be part of the DC and he was going to take over the studios, and people would have supported this if he'd have kind of just meddled in the background a little bit, kind of shaping things the way he wanted it, focused on Peacemaker, focused on bringing some of the animated stuff back into the fold. And I think he should have just stayed in the background. But the minute he kind of like let loose that basically none of these movies are going to exist going forward in his DCU, people just stopped caring. They honestly just gave up on everything. Uh, the back and forth with Dwayne Johnson, the Henry Cavill thing, it's just one thing after another. And that's where I feel like James Gunn made his big mistake. James Gunn should have never opened his mouth about rebooting everything or doing a soft reboot or whatever he was calling it. It just wasn't. I didn't think it was a good thing. So his social media is good. His social media presence. I love when he communicates with the fans out there, and he has a tendency to drop some breadcrumbs here and there when it comes to what's going on, what's happening. If someone says something stupid and outrageous, he squashes it. But he also kind of fumbles the ball by putting out statements and then completely rewriting history with new statements, basically saying he never said what he said, even though we all see tweets and have the receipts. Hey, Anthony, you saw Blue Beetle. It was awesome. Yeah, I we'll get into Blue Beetle. We're going to get into all those in just a minute. So I feel like movies like Shazam 2, a lot of people said it was good. I didn't see it, and I'll tell you why I didn't see it. Um, I'm not a Zachary Levi fan, never have been, and he just gives off weird, creepy vibes to me as a person. And so I didn't watch the first Shazam film. I didn't watch the sequel. I know a lot of the hardcore fans really enjoyed both Shazams and thought that they held up and the continuity was good with the character and all that kind of stuff. I did not see The Flash. Literally within the first 24 hours that the movie screened, everything was spoiled and all over Twitter with clips. So like, why the hell should I wasn't going to bother anyway. I wasn't interested in The Flash. It looked bad. The CGI looked bad. I kept saying even prior to the movie, the CGI looks terrible. It looks terrible. It's like, sure enough, it looked terrible. Now, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, but if you're spending $230 million in a film, they certainly didn't do it with the visual effects. And I know that the director has said, well, it was supposed to be dreamlike, or that's the way it was supposed to look when you were in the realm, the multiverse. To me, it all seems like cop-out stuff. Uh, and this was a time when all these big action films, big CGI films were all being put together all at once, and everybody was being stretched thin in every visual effects house across Hollywood, in India and Canada, in the UK, where they do tons of visual effects as well. Everyone's just being stretched to the ninth degree. And so I think it was a cop out when he said it just wasn't there. And it was supposed to be intended to be that way. So The Flash was bad. Black Adam, solid film. I know people like the Justice Society more than they liked actual Shazam. But if the leaks are true about Superman Legacy sounds like it's a sequel to Black Adam because of the subject matter, where something happens in the Middle East, and should Superman meddle in the Middle East, and all this other kind of stuff, and what's in the Middle East, and all. It seemed like they had asked James Gunn to write the sequel to Black Adam, and then when he got in there, and then when he got in charge, he did some moving around and shuffling around of the script and everything, and got it away from being a sequel to Black Adam, which I think is what it was intended when they had Henry Cavill come do the cameo at the end, and then they announced he was coming back. But you're never going to hear the true story on that one. But I believe that's true. I believe exactly what I'm saying is true. I believe Superman Legacy was a sequel to Black Adam that was going to match up Black Adam and Superman, and he did a big rewrite. But we can get into that in a little bit. So, you got Black Adam's coming out, or Aquaman 2 is coming out soon at the end of the year. If they did not move the production date up, or not production date, but they did not move the release date up like they've done other Warner Brothers films like Dune 2 and stuff like that. And I think it's because they just don't care. And I think if they were smart, they don't seem to be smart. They seem to keep fumbling the ball. They would just release Aquaman 2 on the streaming platform. Although I feel like David Zaslav is looking at all of the expenses that they've had incurred throughout the year with all these flops, and he's looking for a massive write-down before the fiscal year is over for Warner Brothers. They're going to write it all off. So Jason Momoa is too damn likable for Aquaman 2 to flop. I'll tell you what, man, Blue Beetle in my opinion, is a solid film. And I thought Jolo did a great job. I thought everyone did a great job in that movie. And I did not think that was going to flop. I thought that was going to be something that completely blew up for Warner Brothers, and it didn't, and DC, and it didn't. And that's a shame because it's a good movie. It's a good, fun family movie. And it might have been a good family fun movie in the vein of Shazam 2 or Shazam. I didn't see those, but everyone said they were family friendly. And I feel like Blue Beetle definitely fit that mold. So yeah, the whole thing's weird. So again, James Gunn, he didn't want to use Henry Cavill. And I understand why he didn't want to use Henry Cavill. And I want to explain this. I've talked about this on a couple of other live streams with other people on their shows, but I wanted to talk about this because it's very important. After Henry Cavill made his announcement that he was coming back, he went on a show and they were asking him all these questions about the new Superman film. And he said, I couldn't say anything right now. He said, but I am going to be basically, and I'm paraphrasing, heavily involved in the writing, heavily involved in shaping of the story. They want to tell that hopeful Superman story. And he even mentioned that he wanted to be a producer on the film because that's what he was trying to get into as well. So let's just take a minute to think about that for a second. You have an actor who has a huge fan base, who is, his return as Superman has just hit the airwaves. Everyone's going nuts. And in the meantime, in the background, James Gunn's already got this plan of like, all right, well, I'm not doing Black Adam 2 with Superman. I'm going to rewrite this movie. And he already had in his head, I don't want an actor to tell me what to do. Okay, I'm a studio head. I'm going to write and direct Superman, even though he said he wasn't going to direct. Dude, come on. You get an opportunity to direct a Superman movie. I don't blame James Gunn for backpedaling on that one. it's a great opportunity to direct something. So he didn't want to give producer credit to Henry Cavill. He didn't want to give him any creative control in the story going forward. He did. This was a control issue. This had nothing to do with him being 40 or 39 or being aged out of the role at all. This was about control. And I will go to the grave saying this because this is what it was about. He didn't want to tell him what to do. And it's not that he don't like actors. When you hear about how much people care, whether it's Dave Bautista, you can Chris Pratt, anyone that's worked with James Gunn loves him. He's probably a great communicator. He probably makes everything light and fun set, and everybody's having fun and a blast, even in the dramatic moments where you got to cry and do it. James Gunn is probably perfect. This is like a perfect thing for him to do. It is to be in that zone as a director, and he's an actor's director. They love him. So, but there's this fine line when you're a director and you're the guy in charge, you're producing, and then now you're a studio head where you don't want actors telling you what to do. And I believe in my heart that is why Henry Cavill did not return. It was a power struggle. That he didn't want the power struggle. So they get a guy, which I'm happy for him. I joke. I hope I never run into him if he ever heard me say. But I always he looks like Henry Cavill light. It's like they found someone that almost looked just like Henry Cavill 10 years prior or 5 years prior or whatever the case may be, and it's like they're hoping people won't see there's a difference. Henry Cavill light. That's what I call him. Now, is he going to crush the role? He probably will. I've already seen there's somebody put out behind the scenes pictures the other day. He's already bulking up because I knew dude, when I saw how skinny this guy was, I was like, he's going to need to put on about 30 pounds of muscle and get the TRT, get the HGH, sign those confidentiality agreements, get the personal trainer, get all jacked up like all these superhero guys do. He's going to have to do it. What is this? James Gunn wants a legacy like Kevin Feige as being the guy who saved DC. No, I don't think it's going to happen. I know he wants that. I don't think it's going to happen. And, I've got a conspiracy theory that that he was sent there by Kevin Feige and Marvel to destroy the DC brand. I have nothing to back it up. It's a gut feeling that in the back of their mind, in the back of my mind, that he was sent there to destroy DC. And so far, he's doing a great job. And I know people will argue and say, "Well, all these movies, The Flash, Shazam, all these things were happened before he took over." Well, look, as soon as he got the keys to the car, he owns everything. Right? Why do you think he's going out there saying The Flash is the best superhero movie I've ever seen? We all know he made 3 Guardians of the Galaxy films that were better than the Flash movie. Who are you trying to kid? Like, he's doing what studio heads do, which is bullshit, to get people to get in the seats to make the money back for what they're losing. So let's just be honest there. That is what's going on. And in the back of in these back rooms, Peter Safran, James Gunn, David Zaslav, they're all going, okay, so we need another 600 million loss so that we can claim 3 billion in losses this year. And then the billion we made off Barbie, we can keep all that because we've lost all this other money. See, dude, it's all a shell game for these guys. They don't, trust me, they want to pay 0 taxes at the end of the fiscal year for their massive companies. They don't want a tax burden. All these losses are great for them. Trust me, since this merger. So Sean, I promise you the Flash wasn't that bad. I'm sure it wasn't that bad, but with all the rewrites, all the scenes that had Ben Affleck in it, they took him out, had Gal Gadot in it, took him out. They had Henry Cavill in there, took him out. And I'm not talking about the scene where he's like shooting the volcano with his, laser eyes, sealing up the lava flow to stop in the news clip that was in the movie. No, they had scenes with Henry Cavill because he was paid for $250,000 for 3 different cameos apiece. He was paid almost $1 million to come back to do the the scenes in the Flash, the scenes in um, uh, what do you call it? Black Adam, and then one other film. I can't remember what the other film he was supposed to appear in, but he shot 3 cameos, which I would love for that shit to be on a DVD on a bonus feature. Like, why can't we get all the bullshit that they didn't show us? Right? All the different endings we could have had. I mean, at this point, just dump it all on a disc. It would be nice if they did that. Right? Wouldn't we all agree that, hey, that'd be really cool? So yeah, the Meg 2 made more money than the Flash. The Meg had a huge international take because it was made for an international audience. I enjoyed the Meg. It was stupid, silly, stupid, over the top. Jason Statham giant shark movie. It is what it is. But the thing with Gal Gadot, we had a backpedal on that one with James Gunn. Ben Affleck, this whole thing with him, I just all of it stunk. All of it just smells really bad, poorly handled, poorly done with PR, and I think the brand for DC is hurt permanently. There's no recovering from any of this. And somebody was trying to say, I saw on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, somebody was saying that, Man of Steel only did, 300 million or whatever it was, and so we can't expect, but Superman Legacy it'll probably do a small amount of money, and they'll just have to grow from there. You really think that's what David Zaslav and all these guys are thinking? No, they want that $1 billion hit. They're looking for that other Aquaman, and they're in the hunt. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I'll be the first one to eat crow if it doesn't happen. I will, dude. I'm not that guy. I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, I called it wrong. I haven't called any of it wrong since I called James Gunn taking over DC. Every one of these movies have been flops. Oh, well, actually, I got to backpedal, circle back. I did call the Blue Beetle thing wrong because I thought that was going to be a hit. I really did. And I really thought the Cobra Kai fans were going to come out in droves because it was such a huge hit on Netflix. But for whatever reason, and this is what kills me, and DC fans are huge talkies on social media, but they don't pack the theater. They don't. They don't show up. I don't even, but even prior to James Gunn taking over, they don't show up. They don't show up for these movies. I don't know why. I can't figure it out. Twitter's a cesspool of deplorables. Yes, Superman movie has no Superman movies ever made past 700 million. Yeah, no, I get that. That's good. I'm glad you did that, and or put that up there. It's something that needs to be said. Are the expectations high? Yes, because when you bring James Gunn on board and Peter Safran, and then you start saying he's redoing everything, he's going to be the Kevin Feige, and then he doesn't become the Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige knows he's not going to be the Kevin Feige of DCU. He knows it. It's just not going to happen. On my mind entertainment, The Flash was good for what it was. I watched it again on Max. Oh, you know what I should be doing? I'm sorry, guys. I don't do the live streams often. I should be popping these things up. That's right. This is what I need to be doing. The Flash was good for what it was. I watched it again on Max and noticed I didn't like it as much the first, but it's not as bad as people think. I mean, I get that. I still haven't seen it. What do we got? Maybe James Gunn bring the MCU audience with DC. No, I think people are in there. It's a good comment, and it could, but a lot of people are either in the DC camp or the Marvel camp, and most people. Well, but here's who he has to bring to the table: the general audience. He needs to stop thinking about DC fans or Marvel fans, and I think we're the only ones that focus on that shit. The general audience is what takes a movie and puts it over the top. And if you're not getting the general audience in there, I mean, look at The Flash. How many people I'm 48 years old. How many people I went, I guess 1989, I'm trying to do the math on that one. Maybe I was 15, 15, 16 when I saw Batman 89. I know they refer to it as 89. I just called it Batman. I saw that in the theater, and you know, all the people my age should have gone to see that movie in droves just to see Michael Keaton back, but they didn't. Why? Why did they not go see the movie? Even Michael Keaton did a promo and said, you know, for Father's Day, because it opened on Father's Day weekend. For Father's Day, bring your dad to come see Batman because he saw me when you were my yes. Bring your dad, dude. Gosh, that was so sad to hear, but it's true. Uh, the review oh, yeah, Austin. DC is a smaller fan base. It's the general audience he has to get. Absolutely. That's an accurate statement. And let me tell you something. All right, so I worked on Swamp Thing. That was one other Warner Brothers thing I worked on, the series that was on television. So I worked on Swamp Thing, and when they canceled, we were supposed to go 14 episodes. It went 10. They took the last 2 episodes they were shooting and combined them into one to make a season finale to make it 10 and then canceled the show. We spent $84 million on that show. It was the most expensive show ever. But here's the kicker. All those movies, or all those shows that was on the DC Cinematic Universe app. This was before HBO Max was launched. They had the DC app. And the DC app, uh, what we had been told as crew, this went all around. We were all talking about it on set. Is that when they launched that, they didn't have a lot of content, so they put into production Doom Patrol, Titans, um, Stargirl was another one that was right before they canceled Swamp Thing on us. We were supposed to go 5 seasons. We were told we had a 5-season arc. There were guys on season 1 that I know on the show that bought brand new $60,000 trucks because they were like, "Oh, I'll pay this thing off in a couple of years." Like this thing's going to go for 5 years. I know I can go buy a new truck. And then the damn thing got canceled after 10 episodes. And a lot of people had brand new cars. And when I say brand new, I mean, brand new cars. Because you think you're going to go 5 years, so you can make 5 years worth of payments without a problem. What we heard and what was told to us, that even though they were putting all these shows into production, Doom Patrol, Titans, all this stuff, that they only had 160,000 subscribers on the platform. At $76 a year, that's $12 million. Well, one episode of Doom Patrol, 3 million. One episode of Titans was 3 million. Stargirl was 2 million. We had spent 84 million on Swamp Thing. So right away, Warner Brothers was shitting in their pants. What the fuck are we going to do? That we're shelling out all this money, and because those platforms and all these streaming platforms weren't monetized by advertisement, they didn't know how the hell they were going to make the money back. So of course, when they shut down Swamp Thing, so when and then they took Stargirl and they had already greenlit it and were in production, and it ended up on the CW network where they could get advertising money to pay for the show. And this is a true story, guys. This is true. 160,000 subscribers, so $12 million a year, and a lot of people were just signing up, watching what they wanted, and they'd watch. Some people would stick around for the comics because they had a lot of comic books that were uploaded to the platform as well. A lot of people would just cancel it after a month, and so they couldn't count on that, even that $12 million to be there. So they scuttled the DCEU app, and they rolled DC into the new launched at that time HBO Max. Now you know the real story behind why Swamp Thing was canceled and the DC app went nowhere, and 160,000 subscribers. So let's circle back to the audience for DC films. Is it really only the hardcore people, 160,000, that give a shit about it, and maybe a small portion of the general audience? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case. And I think Marvel has such a wider appeal. They did everything right coming out of the gate. They got lucky with Iron Man. I mean, sure, we could go back to Blade. We could go back further than that and say when it all started, but it all really kicked off with Iron Man. And 30 films later, all these television series later, whether you think it's mid now, whatever, it doesn't matter. They established all this lore, and DC's just never been able to nail that. They just never been able to do it. And so this brings me to this tweet that went around today. I think it was today, might have been yesterday. And these were some leaked tweets. One looks like an internal message James Gunn sent to Sean Gunn, talking about, now these were from 11 years ago, and he was talking about Michael Keaton's Batman and Christopher Nolan's Batman films. And first of all, I'm gonna tell you something. This shit blew my mind when I read it. Not because he can have an opinion. James Gunn can absolutely have an opinion. I work for Warner Brothers too. I have an opinion about that. Some of it's just shit, and some of it's really good, and whatever. He can have an opinion because he's a cinephile. He's a cinema guy. But his takes are so bad on Michael Keaton's Batman and what he said about Christopher Nolan's Batman films. Now, James Gunn comes from the background of trauma. And if you haven't seen a trauma movie, you should. Kevin Costner got his big break in a trauma film. They're these really ultra low budget, horribly edited, and they were the ones that created The Toxic Avenger and all these low budget, horrible films in the early 80s, late 70s, whatever. And they're still making them today, trauma films. I did a movie called The Cutting Room that I acted in. It was directed by Chris Ruffy and Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma. He was in The Cutting Room, and this was a trauma-esque film that I did. So I get it. Like a lot of actors like myself get started in these types of trauma-esque films or trauma films. But this is the brain that James Gunn has. Okay? James Gunn has a trauma brain, meaning he likes outrageous stuff. And you can see it in his filmmaking. You can see it in Peacemaker. You can see it in the things that he does. He's just got this, it's crazy. What he does is he's got a crazy energy. His mind works on a different level than the general audience does. And so he says these things. I've got them on my phone. I'm going to read them. I could pull them up, but I'm not good with the live streaming shit. So I'm just going to pull them up on my phone. I'm going to read them. All right. So this is James Gunn's take on Michael Keaton. A, and he puts the A. A, Keaton did have a ridiculous voice. That said, I'd rather put up with a ridiculous voice than with the horrible action sequences and acting barely worthy of the Batman TV show. Now, we're talking about the Adam West Ward TV show from back in the day in the 60s that ran for 2 seasons. All those colors, all that comedy, all that dryness to it, the obscure shooting angles. Every time they filmed that show, that Batman show, the villains, the camera was always crooked. Why? Because the villains were crooks. Okay, this is the mind of James Gunn. I mean, he didn't film any of that stuff, but this is the stuff that he latches onto. He likes the costumes with the underwear, just like the comic books. He likes you look at the costumes from the Batman TV show. And this is where he says that movie that Tim Burton did was not worthy of what they did on the Batman TV show. This is the mind of James Gunn. B, I have no idea how you can think that the Burton Batman has more similarities with Moore or Miller's Batman and Joker than Nolan's does. Now he's talking about Frank Miller's, The Dark Knight comic book and all that kind of stuff. And he says, and listen, I have problems with both of Nolan's films. Obviously, when he wrote this, Dark Knight Rises wasn't out yet. So the fact that he had problems with Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, which, let's be honest, every time a new DC movie comes out, they always say this is the best movie since The Dark Knight. Why? Because Christopher Nolan set the bar. Whether you like the Christopher Nolan films or not, I love them. I think they're great. I think they're grounded more in reality than the new, because it's obvious, like Matt Reeves is creating a universe in very similar tones and fashion to Tim Burton with the darkness and that kind of thing, where the Christopher Nolan films feel like you're in New York City or in Chicago, or Gotham is like a real American city with real cars we can relate to, real everything. Like that's why those films worked. And I'll get into why the audience is tuning out of all the shit that they're making today, whether it be Marvel or um, whether it be DC. I'm going to get to that in a minute. So he says, I don't think either one is a classic. So James Gunn, in his mind, he doesn't believe. Now this was 11 years ago, but he doesn't believe Christopher Nolan's Batman films are classics. Now, remember, he's saying this 11 years prior, 10 years prior to having DC Studios and working with Warner Brothers. So he's trashing Christopher Nolan's films, not really trashing them, just saying they're not going to be classics, and that he has problems with them. This Christopher Nolan is Warner Brothers' golden boy. They love him. They love putting out his films, although Oppenheimer was Universal because he had a falling out with Warner Brothers because he was having problems with studio heads and stuff. But make no mistake, Warner Brothers loves Christopher Nolan. And so the fact that James Gunn is piling on Christopher Nolan here is pretty screwed up. Well, this was not a tweet. Because hold on, I'm looking at this one here. I think he's being edgy with those tweets from 11 years ago. Some of them aren't; they were internal, and some of them were tweets. So I get it. He was being edgy. Yeah, I mean, dude, I say shit all the time in my tweets. I get it. I get it. The problem is these things come back to haunt you, especially when you're going to be a studio head. Okay, but I digress. So he says, but they're far superior than Tim Burton's Batman film. He goes on to say, he's absolutely correct. The Nolan films are far superior than Tim Burton's films. Tim Burton's films have always had that obscure, odd, cartoonish twist to them with the darkness. I mean, any one of all of his movies look like they could all be dropped into the same universe, whether it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or whether it's Dumbo or whether you take them all. It's the camera angles, it's the shots, it's the lighting, the Batman. You take Beetlejuice, you roll them all together, and it's in this mind of Tim Burton. And that's why some of his movies have stood the test of time, because they have a unique look to them. And you either love that goth kind of twisted shit or you don't. I can take or leave Tim Burton films. I didn't see Dumbo, although I want to see it on Disney Plus. I just haven't watched it yet. I did Charlie and Chocolate Factory was garbage. He really lost his edge there. I thought the first Batman film, the '89 Batman, the first Batman film was good. Batman Returns, he just kind of starting to get to that point where I'm kind of glad they pulled the rug on him, even though the other ones started to get worse after that one. I totally disagree with James Gunn. I hope he's changed since, because it doesn't look like it. No, no, a person like James Gunn, he's not going to change. You're going to get the jokey jokes in your new Superman movie. And you're going to have way too many superhero characters in it, and it's going to dilute Superman's story. I'm telling you. But this is what we're getting. And yeah, I do agree. Zoomer, Tim Burton did fall off. He fell off. It's okay. Some filmmakers do. I feel like Quentin Tarantino fell off a long time ago. And so anyway, I said, Anthony, Batman Begins is amazing. Absolutely, Batman Begins is amazing. Absolutely, it's just fantastic, perfectly put together. And this goes back to the realism when people talk about the realism of the Nolan films, or I talk about them. You, one of the big questions when it came to Batman. Now, in the comic books, you know, Batman and Alfred build the Batmobile. They're doing all this. Dude, come on, man! Like, how are you going to mill parts to a car and mill tanks and mill things? And it made so much sense how the Batmobile was R&D for the military that they never funded the project. But the Wayne Enterprises, built this stuff. Uh, Even the tactical suit, everything was like so grounded in reality. Because if you were a billionaire and you had an R&D department at your disposal, fuck yeah, you'd be getting a Batmobile from them if they had something like that. And so it made sense. Like, those movies made sense and they felt real, down to the Joker and the Dark Knight's bank robbery heist in the beginning. All that shit felt real. And it wasn't fantasy. It didn't feel like fantasy. It felt like he made three cop films, cop dramas, and Batman just happened to be in that shit. And Batman did a lot of sleuthing in that, which is so weird when they talk about the Batman, Matt Reeves' version. Oh, this is the first time we're ever getting a sleuth. And I'm thinking, what? Like, they did all sorts of shit in those movies. The reconstruction of the bullet, the ant coming up with an antidote to the scarecrow, figuring out all the shit that they figured out in the Dark Knight Rises. Like, there was a lot of sleuthing that, like, Batman. It's so weird that people's memories don't remember all the scenes when he did all the like cop investigating shit. The irradiated bills. That was him being a sleuth, like, to track the money from the mob. Like, and it felt like reality. Like, okay, yeah, you irradiated bills. Well, that makes sense. Like, fuck yeah, I bet they probably do something like that. Some banks put exploding ink in their packs of money. He figured out a way to irradiate low radiation bills so he could track the money. That's sleuthing. It wasn't like the movie Seven type sleuthing, like they did with the Matt Reeves film, which is fine. I just hate when they try to make the Matt Reeves shit like better, or not better, but like, how did you forget about the Nolan stuff? Anyway, I digress. So he goes on to say, we're going to talk about this because we're going to go. He goes on to say, oh, my phone, it locked up. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. But they are far superior to the first Batman film, which I agree. I agree with James Gunn on that one. None of your defenses get by the fact that despite being the first cinematic dark take on Batman, so what? Stallone's Judge Dredd was the first dark take on Judge Dredd. The movie was awful. I mean, look, comparing Stallone's Judge Dredd to Tim Burton's Batman film, that's you can't. I mean, I get it was a comic book and like it was an adaptation, but that was just a bad example for James Gunn. And then there was a tweet from James Gunn 11 years ago where he said, "Oh yeah, and Jack Nicholson as the Joker is Jack Nicholson in The Shining with shitty clown makeup on. Fuck you, everyone involved with that travesty." So he's literally saying, "Fuck you, Tim Burton. Fuck you, Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson's royalty in Hollywood." I mean, to the Gen Z kids, they don't know who the fuck he is, but for people that watch Chinatown and people that watch The Shining and people who watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and every other film he's made since, are you kidding me? Jack is great. So I don't know where. And again, like, this is the trauma brain. James Gunn has trauma brain. I think I'm going to coin that phrase from now on. Trauma brain. Let's see. Hold on. Let me get to some of these here. Thor 3 was good because it was a serious and funny. It knew how to balance that. Thor needed that. DC needs to find its balance. Not everything needs to be dark. Not everything needs to be funny. I agree with that. That was a good statement there. I watched Peacemaker. I watched the first episode. I tapped out after that. I didn't get it. Okay, it's just again, it's kind of like the Suicide Squad. It's kind of like I I'm not into the jokey stuff, and although I enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy films, I could take or leave them. I've only watched them all one time, each film. I've seen them in the theater one time. I've never revisited them after that, even on Disney Plus. I those are characters I'm not invested in, and the jokey jokes and all that stuff. And again, and this is where I'm going to get to the audience. I want to talk about the audience, the DC audience, general audience. This is where everyone in the general audience has been giving up on Marvel and they've been giving up on DC. And I'll tell you what, this is it. This is it, people. What's up, guys? You ready? Outer space. Yeah, that's it. The general audience is has lost interest ever since you left Earth and you've gone to outer space. And it's going to be the same thing with DC. Bringing in the Green Lantern Corps. They didn't like Green Lantern even when Ryan Reynolds did it, and you know they're not going to like it next time. You start bringing in all these intergalactic things that people cannot connect with, which is why the Nolan films made billions of dollars uh, cumulatively. I mean, we know that The Dark Knight uh, uh, did over $1 billion. They felt like they could be in those worlds. Yeah, that's what it is. It's Batman fighting in alleyways. Even the '89 film, even though everything looked gothic and dark, oh, dude, that looks like an alleyway I could have beat a guy in and thrown him over the car. People want to be grounded. You take people to different worlds and they don't get it. And they can't connect the visuals in their mind. Now the comic book fans, holy shit, they're doing it just like the comic. This is great. Yeah, we get it. They're doing Guardians of the Galaxy just like the fucking comic, right? But the general audience don't give a fuck because they can't relate to it because they haven't invested in those characters and all these sub characters that the authority, all these things that James Gunn's trying to do and trying to bring forward, no one cares about. When it's DC, it's Batman, it's Wonder Woman, it's Superman, it's the Trinity. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about all these other characters. They don't care. They would rather keep watching reboots of Batman because in their minds, Batman is a billionaire. Oh, I we see those on TV. We know they run the stock market. We know they have mansions. Okay. Uh, yeah, I could see him building in his garage a Batmobile and then getting a costume on and fighting people. Getting on a ship with Miss Marvel and going to an intergalactic planet where everyone looks like fish and fighting that war, people don't get. People don't get it. And this is why no one cares anymore. This is why it's all going to shit with Marvel and with DC. Now, Marvel still kind of hangs in there. I think the last Doctor Strange did 995 million, so it came close to that $1 billion mark. You still got, and again, like even Spider-Man. Spider-Man does well because it's a kid from Queens or no, from Brooklyn. People get that, right? They don't get it when you're off world and they don't want to see it, you know? And that's the truth. That's the honest truth, people. I'm telling you. Let's go back and see what happened. Uh, Agreed. Gunn should focus on the Trinity. Absolutely. Actually, Sean, it's the introduction of the multiverse, which is why people don't care. No, I think if the multiverse was done right, people would care. But I don't think they've done it right so far. I think Spider-Man No Way Home did it right because you had three amazing Spider-Mans, pun intended, that they brought together and they did it in a way that satisfied the audience. Uh, and again, like the Power Ranger Day, guys, I'm so sorry that I just totally didn't, uh, I didn't see that. But again, like I'm 48 years old. I missed the Power Ranger thing. I had nephews when the Power Rangers were big that watched the Power Rangers, and they had the toys and they had the shit. And I don't have none of that. I didn't. That was I was you know I was having sex in the backseat of cars when the Power Rangers were going on. I was hooking up. Like I'm not. I wasn't watching Power Rangers. So but anyone that's a fan of Power Rangers, if you're celebrating this day, yes, I'm happy for you. It's just like people that celebrate Star Wars or people that celebrate. If you love Power Rangers, that's awesome. I just never got into it. Uh, I don't believe superhero fatigue is a thing. I think people will come out to good movies. Although I thought Blue Beetle was good, and nobody fucking showed up for that. Oh well, I mean, I don't know. It could be a thing. Are we tired of superhero movies? I mean, at this point, even I know a lot of the comments about Blue Beetle were that they all had the same thing. Um, Kid finds a suit or is exposed to a suit and has to then he goes through the learning curve like Spider-Man had to learn how to swing and shit, and Iron Man had to learn how to fly and shit, and then once he got to know how to use the suit, and then he saves the day and he beats the villain at the end. They're all pretty much formula. What are you gonna do? I heard Blue Beetle is doing good with the cheaper ticket sales. I hope it is. I hope it's like Elemental. Elemental ended up clearing $500 million. It was a slow burn, and Elemental was a good movie. We saw it in the theater. I took my 3.5-year-old daughter to see Elemental, and we loved the movie. And I hope Blue Beetle has legs, but they've already made the announcement for the streaming or the digital release. So it's like I think it's coming in September. So so much for being in the theaters for 90 days. They're not going to do that. Ticket prices are part of the problem somewhat. I would agree. Ticket prices are expensive. Maybe there was a boost when was it yesterday or was it Sunday? It was National Theater Day where everything was $4 at the cinema. Ticket prices could be a problem. People are still being squeezed. People still um, aren't out of the woods when it comes to finances and inflation uh, and COVID and all that kind of stuff. So I agree that there, yeah. Uh, Robert Meyer Burnett is a all right. How do you say that? Sentai fan? I take it that's Power Rangers. Look, Robert Meyer Burnett. I watch his channel. I like his stuff. He's so knowledgeable. But I don't collect toys. I'm like I have things, but I don't have things like some of these guys have all behind them collecting toys and that kind of. So some people are invested in these things more. I'm not. I have a pretty decent Jaws collection of things like you can't see, but I've got some Jaws stuff because I'm a huge Jaws fan. We all have our little kinks. Uh, do I think the Apple acquisition of Disney is true? I think everything's on the table, but I think if anything, uh, I feel ESPN will be spun off because ESPN wants to, they're trying to team up with some of these sports betting, and like Disney doesn't want to tarnish its image and have sports gambling tied into the Disney property. So I think ESPN absolutely will be spun off so that they can do the gambling thing. And that's why I think like a lot of their main talent, if you saw like a month back, like Steve Young, all these guys that had $100 million contracts to do commentating and all that, they were cutting them left and right. I think in 1 week they got rid of all their top talent. When that happens, they're looking to consolidate to give a market value of ESPN so they can spin it off, and it'll probably be bought by not Barstool Sports or the Kings, whatever the Kings gambling thing. They're going to turn that thing into a money machine. but Disney doesn't want to tarnish its brand. So I think that'll be spun off. Uh, Nerdrotic only influences incels. I don't. I can't believe I even brought up his name on this stream. Uh, ESPN lost their influence when people started watching sports programs on YouTube and Twitch. Yeah, I agree, but this is how they'll get it back because not only will they tie the gambling to it, they'll be putting up all the stats in Vegas and everything, and people will tune in as that resource to figure out how to place bets. All the bookies are going out of business. Anybody who had any bookies that were left in the big cities, get it, man. It's over. They're taking over Disney. They're spinning off ESPN. Mm. Anthony does not think Apple's going to buy. Look, Apple has also been trying to develop an electric car for the last 15 to 20 years, and it hasn't come to fruition. So maybe you're right. Maybe they don't want to buy ESPN, but I think, listen to Sean, I'm pretty right about this. I think ESPN is going to be spun off. Oh no, there's a new outrage channel. Who said what? There's a new outrage channel. What about? I don't even know what you're talking about. I hate the outrage channels. I don't even like them. Okay, what do we got here? Hold on. I myself did a what if mock up of what the on screen logo for 20th Century Fox Studios would look like if the studio was included in Apple acquisitions on Disney or in the Disney Empire. Okay, where is it? Where's the mock up? Oh, it's on my DeviantArt page, Don Don P1. All right, guys, there's 10 people watching. Go to DeviantArt page and look up Don Don P1 and check out that. I'm going to look afterwards. I'm not going to do it while I'm on the stream, but I'm going to look afterwards. Universal buying Warner Brothers. NBC Universal, you're going to start seeing a lot of consolidation of all these streaming platforms because they're all hemorrhaging money. The only people that have played the game perfectly this whole time is Sony because they never started a streaming network and they just keep selling their shit to the streaming networks and they're in the green. They're not in the black. They're not in the red. They're in the green. They're making money hand over fist. Sony, they're the smartest ones in the game. Everybody else hemorrhaging money. I don't think Universal already owns NBC. They own Peacock. Could they buy Warner Brothers and get HBO and then put it all into one giant platform? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they want it. I wouldn't want it, honestly. I mean, let's be honest. Other than DC, what does that? If you got their library, what really would it contribute to? Universal has such a huge library. They already own NBC. I mean, I just don't know. Sean, can you imagine if HBO bought Star Wars? No, I think they're good with their Game of Thrones stuff. It's just like Star Wars without lightsabers. Let's see. What do we got here? Do you think Bob Iger is cleaning up the house for Marvel? Nah, I think he's still letting Kevin Feige do his thing because it's one of the more profitable entities. They don't have to worry about Marvel Studios. They don't. I mean, The Last Guardians did $850 million. The Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange did $950 million. They've had a couple of misses like Eternals, but they're all still crushing it. Are they all breaking $1 billion like they did for quite a few years in a row? No, but they're all hitting the mark. And then what people forget is the difference between DC and Marvel. Marvel toys sell to little kids. Why? Because it's friendly. Iron Man, Spider-Man. But then you got, you go dark, Matt Reeves, Batman, hitting somebody over the head with a hammer, and crushing their skull. Like, how many people took their kids to watch that 3-hour abomination of a film? I wasn't a fan of the Batman. I hope the sequel is a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun, and about a half an hour shorter. That's the other thing they gotta figure out. These run times, these 3-hour run times on these films are killing. It's not allowing for 5 shows a day in the cinema of a movie. It's allowing for 4. You cut out a full screening, and you're not making money. So stop making 3-hour films. 2-hour, 15-minute movies with 15 minutes of previews, that should be it. Cut it off. I'm so sick of 3-hour films. What do we got here? What do we got? Thought Disney VFX workers are voting to unionize. Over 80% of Disney's in-house VX members are officially sick. I hope they do, because they're gonna get good money. They'll get time and a half after 8 hours or 10 hours. So if they work 12, 15, 16-hour days, they're gonna be making they'll make up until all right, so the first 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours a day, depending on the contract, they'll get straight time. They'll probably make $25, $26 an hour. Then either 8 to 12 or 10 to 12, they'll get time and a half. Once you hit 14, you get double time. So, and if you go 14, 15, 16, make a 17-hour day, bank, they'll be clearing easily $2,800 a week before taxes. And that's much better than what they're being paid now. And I hope that that's the case. I hope they unionize. And, again, these studios, which I work for these studios, this is what I do for a living. They've been getting away with murder for years by subcontracting and that's why the in-house visual effects artists, they've got power. But all these other when you watch a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, and you see 6 different visual effects houses from all over the world, especially like if it's India, they're paying their people $1 a day, $1 a week. Why wouldn't you send your visual effects to India? Right? Makes sense. And they'll work those guys to death to deliver the deadlines proper. So yeah, I hope they do unionize. Do you like Robert Pattinson? I think he's arguably the best Batman since Bale. I do like Robert Pattinson. I wished he would have played it a little. To me, it didn't look like he had fun making the movie. And I'm not saying fun um, like jokey, like you needed comedy moments. I don't believe you did, but he just seemed like at any moment he was going to pull out a gun and shoot his brains out, and that's not what I want in a Batman. I think his look was good. I didn't mind the hybrid kind of like his cowl looks like the Adam West cowl stitched up. They took a lot of things from the other movies and kind of peppered them in. I like the armor plating. It looks like a guy who would have made that in his garage. I thought the Batmobile was awful, but I have a certain place in my heart for the Keaton car, and I love the Tumbler. I do not like Ben Affleck's Batmobile at all, and I do not like the Dodge Charger Challenger with the rear engine. Look, anytime you have a rear exposed engine and the bad guys are shooting at it with a gun, if you know anything about automotives, you'll hit the hoses, you'll hit the radiator, you'll hit everything. The car will be dead in the water. It's the same problem I had for Batman Forever when the Batmobile had the gaps in the plate that showed all the inner workings of the Batmobile. It's like, hello, they can just shoot that shit and it will penetrate and stop the vehicle. So for me, although the Batmobile to a lot of people was cool, and it sounded great, it did sound great when it revved up and everything. It didn't seem like something Batman would have. It looked like a Dodge Charger, a Dodge Challenger with a roll bar in it. I just didn't enjoy it. So sorry, guys. Let's see, where are we at? Any thoughts on reboots on everything such as Harry Potter? Yeah, Harry Potter, leave that shit alone. But they're not going to because Warner Brothers, they don't know how to create anything new. And this is what's been a problem with the studios forever. They don't want to take a risk on something that is not going to hit. They think just on name recognition alone, people will come back. And if they make even half of what they made the first time, they'll be happy and their shareholders will be happy. But that's no good. That's no good. I want more original movies. I want more original shit. Like, stop remaking everything. Remake sequels, prequels, reboots. It's just and that I think that's a problem too with the general audience. They're tired of it. They get burned out. Uh, what do you think about Warner Brothers Discovery is broken? They can't advertise Aquaman 2 after spending all the money on the Flash marketing. Nah, nah, they got money to market that movie. They just they're just waiting for the holidays because they probably have tie-ins, toy tie-ins, Happy Meal tie-ins. They've got to set a window of dates, and if this thing is hitting around Christmas, I think it's like the December 19th or something like that, or the 25th, or somewhere around there, you'll start seeing the marketing blitz. And they were just doing reshoots, and they probably don't have finished visual effects shots yet, and they don't want to cut together a trailer that might scare people away. People, again, somebody had said it in the comment section earlier. People love Jason Momoa. I love Jason Momoa. I think he's great, and he's such a good spirit in general. Like I think they want the movie to be successful for him, even if he's going to be Lobo and do something different. So yeah, I just don't think we've seen it yet. I think they're still trying to get the marketing blitz and campaign for Blue Beetle to kind of. They're still putting stuff out there with Blue Beetle. Let's see, what else do we got? Do you think Ahsoka will fall off the rails or surprisingly good and bring back fans together? I watched the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka. I'm not going to do any reviews on Ahsoka. I'm going to do one when the whole show's over. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little tired of seeing people get stabbed by lightsabers and then the lightsabers not killing them. I get it because of storyline. They don't want Sabine to be um, killed because she's part of the story going forward. But why not, when they were lightsaber dueling, the Sith girl throw a force push and throw her up against the wall, and she drops the lightsaber and hits her head, and she's bleeding out of her head, and then she jumps on the ship and leaves. Why did she have to run her through? Uh, because here's the thing. I didn't want to talk about Ahsoka, but here's the thing. If you're a bad guy and you poke somebody straight through with a lightsaber, all you have to do is go right or left and exit the body and fillet the body in half. Why do these Siths poke and pull out? It's like stick, slice. And Sabine's, well, should be cauterized, but she would have fallen in half. Oh, they hit the kidney, they hit the liver, she hit the liver and it cauterized everything. But if you're a Sith, why would you not Ginsu knife her to death when you had her like that? To me, it's bad storytelling. Um, I love Filoni. I love what he's doing, but a force push of Sabine up against back, she could have flown all the way back towards the spire and hit the wall and bust her head open, and then they could have woken her up with a cut over her eyebrow, and I would have been like, fine. But after you stabbed Riva, Darth Vader stabs Riva and leaves her to live another day. Uh, Darth Vader, Darth Vader sticks someone through, and then Riva sticks the Inquisitor. Oh, but the Inquisitor's got 3 stomachs, and like you could come up with all these bullshit excuses, but lightsabers cut off limbs, lightsabers cut people in half. And for me, it's eh. But I'll be honest, look, I'm 48 years old. I saw The Empire Strikes Back in the theater when it was released in 1981 when I was a kid. I saw Return of the Jedi in 83. I'm old school, dude. I've seen all the original prequels in the theater, and I saw the original Star Wars movies when they re-released them in the theater in the 90s, with the special editions. I, all this new shit, I can take it or leave it, because in the end, if I want to watch Star Wars, I pop in Empire Strikes Back, and that's what I'm watching. Empire Strikes Back every time. I think I've seen it probably 1,000 times at this point in my lifetime. If you're like, hey, you want to watch Kenobi again? Now I'm going to put on The Empire Strikes Back on Disney Plus and leave it on in the background. To me, that was the pinnacle of Star Wars. No other film other than Rogue One, I have to admit, which I don't watch often, are the 2 best Star Wars films ever made. I know that's up for debate, but I'm just gonna say that. Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One. Uh, Seems like the horror genre is the only reliable space to get original IPs since they're cheap to make. I'm here for it though. Totally agree. Horror films are fantastic. You know, I worked on a Blumhouse movie. I worked on a movie called Jezebel. If you haven't seen it, watch Jezebel. I worked on that movie, and in the beginning of the film, I worked as crew. I was in the accounting department, and this is accounting department. This was why I know about stuff from behind the scenes, money wise. I try telling people all the time about how movies are financed and how some of these movies aren't bombing like they're saying because of the creative financing that they come up with for the budgets and stuff. And people don't want to listen to me; they just want to listen to the trades and oh, it bombed. And no, not really. Um, but Jezebel was a good movie. I met Jason Blum on that film when he came to visit set. Great guy. Uh, I remember when they paid $300 million for the Exorcist franchise, and then David Gordon Green, after doing the Halloween films, I did. I worked on the first 2018 Halloween film with David Gordon Green and Blumhouse. Did that one. I was part of the crew on that one, and I'm a big fan of them. And even though they've made Saw, like I think there's a new Saw coming out, and it's like Saw 10 or 11 or 12, or it's fine. I mean, at least it's something new. I mean, we had our generation of Jason films, the Friday the 13th. We had our like in the 80s. I was a huge Freddy Krueger fan, and I had the glove, I had the sweater. It was great back then. But I love seeing new horror films because yeah, you can do so much with those that you know I'm not too crazy for rebooting of the Evil Dead stuff, but I'm not sure that IP is even worth keeping alive. Uh, but and I love the Evil Dead 2. It's my favorite Sam Raimi film in that genre, Evil Dead 2. But yeah, so anyway, long story short, you're absolutely correct. Horror films are where it's at, and you do make them cheap. Cheap is a relative number because cheap now for a horror film is 40 to 45 million dollars. Um, they used to be able to make a horror film for 10 or 11, and it would just make gangbusters. Now it's still, even Jason Blum's movies are getting a little up there where he's got to pull these budgets back down to where he was really super successful. Not that he's not super successful now, because he's crushing it. But still, uh, let's see. Sean, your thoughts on the Spiderwick Chronicles no longer moving forward at Disney Plus? The 6-episode series from Paramount Television Studios, 26 has been completed. They'll sell it. They'll sell it. So it'll show up on somebody else's platform, but they're just not interested in putting it forward. So just hang tight. I don't think it's going anywhere. It is currently being shopped by Paramount to other potential buyers. Yeah, yeah, dude. Netflix, somebody's going to buy it. It's a finished product, and they'll lowball them too. But Disney will just write off whatever the losses are. Not a big deal. Sean, how is Disney going to handle the Punisher problem? I'm concerned Disney will ruin Punisher. I don't want a jokey Punisher. I don't know, man. I don't know. I have no idea how they're going to handle the Punisher. Maybe they'll still have a lot of gunplay. A lot of the Marvel stuff has a lot of gunplay. But what you don't see is people bleeding. So maybe it'll be one of those where he's walking down the hallway and he's shooting and people are dropping, but you don't see them explode like on the Netflix series. So yeah, maybe that's the case. Maybe that's how they get around it. Any thoughts on Deadpool 3? I can't wait to see Deadpool 3, although I really wish Hugh Jackman did not come out of retirement to do it. I loved how Logan kind of ended his run, and he complained so much during Wolverine and Logan about eating egg whites for 6 months and his training regimen and how he had to get so ripped and putting on the weight, and he said it was a drag, and so for me, I really liked Logan, and I thought that closed off his thing. But I know how good friends he is with Ryan Reynolds. and how they know they failed that first time. They know and it wasn't their fault, but they know that didn't give the audience what they wanted. And then when Deadpool was a hit, of course he wants to join that. And then this could be a way to fold him into the MCU, even if it's on a multiverse kind of level. Because we don't know this Deadpool thing, maybe pulling Logan out of a different universe. Wolverine. He may not be the Wolverine that ends up in Logan, but we'll see. But I think it's just going to be fun, and I think it'll be a huge success for Marvel. Marvel's not stupid, man. They're still doing it right. No matter what people are, oh, it's mid, or the shows on Disney Plus, or some are hit and miss. Yeah, dude, they're still giving the audience what they want. So we'll see how it goes forward. What we got? Qui-Gon Jinn is rolling his Force Ghost eyes of all these people surviving lightsaber stabs. Yeah. No, I saw somebody, a medical doctor, was on TikTok talking about, well, Qui-Gon got hit in the upper chest, so it probably pierced his heart. Where the Sabine got hit in the liver, and you're just like, okay, they're going to go there with that. I mean, that's how they're going to explain it. Somebody else was like, well, Qui-Gon Jinn happened uh, like 20 years before uh, A New Hope, before they had uh, Bacta tanks in Empire Strikes Back, and then or something. They were trying to make it so that the medical advancements in technology, by the time you're 10 years after or 5 years after Return of the Jedi, that they cure everything. It's like Star Trek. You walk up and you just take a tricorder and you're cured. Doesn't matter what you have, you're cured. That's kind of how everyone's explaining it online. Whatever. Sean, who will win in the fight for Nightmare on Elm Street? Who win the rights? Oh, I know. I think Blumhouse is trying to get him. That's what I heard in the trades. I don't know if he did or not, but I don't think we need that shit remade. Look what happened when they tried. And I love the actor that they got to play Freddy Krueger in the reboot, but I didn't watch that movie because they tried to go super realistic with him and make him look like a real burn victim, but he kind of just looked like a Ninja Turtle. And I couldn't. I saw the preview and I was like, no way. I need Freddy Krueger. If anything, needs to be jokey joke. And I know he didn't start off that way. Now, first Nightmare on Elm Street wasn't really jokey jokey. It wasn't until like 2 and 3 that he really started throwing out the one-liners, because one-liners were big in the 80s. Once that caught on with Schwarzenegger and all these, everyone had to have the one-liners, and that was just like, you could write anything for Freddy Krueger and he could make it work. It's funny because it doesn't matter how badly the Transformers movies are, they still will make bank. Please tell me why. Um, I watched the first 2 Transformers movies and I saw Bumblebee. I haven't seen any of the rest of them. I lost interest in them. Uh, uh, I like Shia LaBeouf. I thought his character was great in the first one. When I like Haley Steinfeld. She's gorgeous, easy on the eyes to watch, but it seemed like Bumblebee was a remake of the original because of how the camaraderie between Bumblebee, and it just seemed like, okay, are we watching the same movie again? Uh, if anything, give me more of the Optimus Prime, with the square nose truck, just like they got to make the shit more like the toys, instead of kind of what Michael Bay did with, and the animators. God, fuck, can you imagine the animators with all those little fucking pieces in the first 2 movies? And then they got it pretty simplistic by the time the later ones happened, after they figured out the algorithms and how everything worked. But fuck, every little thing moved. I would have shot myself at the end of the run when I did visual effects on that movie. So where are we at? Spider-Man 4. You mean Sam Raimi coming back to do Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire? I don't know. I mean, I think the closest we ever got is Spider-Man No Way Home. I think that's it. I think there's a reason they pivoted from what they were doing with Andrew Garfield. And my wife worked on both those films. She did the marketing for The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and she did the marketing for Spider-Man 2 and 3, the Sam Raimi films. She didn't work for Sony Pictures on when the first film happened, but she worked on international marketing for all those Spider-Man films, and they're very close to her. My wife loves those Spider-Man movies. See the poster I've got in the back framed? Yeah, that's the one that was banned because I think he's on the Chrysler Building and he's looking, and you can see in his lens the World Trade Center. That poster behind me is not supposed to exist. It was supposed to be destroyed. It's a real mini poster. We even have some big ones. All that stuff was supposed to be destroyed. Anyway, what were we talking about? Spider-Man 4. I don't think it's going to happen. Tobey's way too old now to play Spider-Man. No, Tobey Maguire's perfect. Come on, Tyga. They just pulled a 70-year-old Michael Keaton and put him in his costume. He was fine, and he beat the. I saw the clips online. I didn't watch the movie, but the way he fought the Kryptonian and flew down. I mean, most of that shit is not him in the costume anyway. Once Tobey Maguire puts on the mask, they just fly him around in CG. You don't have to do the work. These guys don't have to do the work anymore. He's not too old. He's absolutely not too old. He could be the Peter Parker who's grown up. Absolutely. Now, bringing Kirsten Dunst back to be, in it, and all the people. I don't know. I just don't know what story could they tap into. They've already done all of this stuff, right? They had the with Topher Grace. They had the Venom. They had the Sandman. They had Lizard. They had like what's another villain besides who's the one that's coming? The one that kills the animal guy, Craven. They want to put together the whole Sinister Six. I don't know. Craven looks when he bit the nose off. I got to admit that was pretty cool. I think that's gonna bomb. I think it's gonna be like Morbius. I liked Morbius. I know people. I couldn't see why people the hate for it online. I caught it on a flight. I was flying to Montana for my brother-in-law's wedding, and I caught Morbius on the plane on the little screen, and I watched it. And I skipped it in the theater because everybody was just ragged on it online, and I was like, this ain't that bad. Why? I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I don't know where everybody got the whole idea. It was a terrible film. And the internet sucks, dude. Like between Rotten Tomatoes, Twitter or X, and the YouTube critics, dude, they really can sway the audience to not show up for a film. It's pretty bad too. Like, I think there needs to be less leaked on movies and less shown in trailers to give some sort of mystery to movies again, to get people to come see them in the theater. And then, these embargoes on they don't stop letting YouTube people go to events and see shit ahead of time. Like, don't fuck them all. Grace, all these guys that get in these free access passes, pull them. Don't let people do it anymore. Show a clip at Comic-Con and then let it ride in the theaters. Don't let these guys go pay to see it and let them work hard. Don't give them something a month in advance. Let them come up with their video ready to drop. And as soon as the embargo is lifted, they drop it and they just crush a film. It's terrible. It's a terrible business model. Yes, Twitter is toxic. Tom Holland, Spider-Man 4. I can't wait. I mean, I hope he does it. If he doesn't do it and they decide to go Miles Morales or whatever the hell they want to do, I don't care. Tom Holland's been a fun Spider-Man. I've enjoyed his performance because it's fun. And I liked his introduction in Captain America: Civil War. I thought that was great. He captured the classic taunting of the bad guys. Or hey, Captain America, what's up? Oh, cool shield. Like he acted like a teenager. I thought it was great. Not to say that Andrew Garfield, he had that that too, that witty teenager kind of, and when he's joking with the criminals, but I think Tom Holland just crushed it. Anyway, all right, so did you see Barb I did not see Barbie, and I didn't see Oppenheimer. Barbie didn't interest me, sorry. Never had Barbies growing up. I who's the one that plays Barbie? What's the one from that plays Harley Quinn and all that kinda stuff, and what's her name? I don't know why it's slipping my mind, but somebody in the comment section, who plays Harley Quinn? Who plays Barbie? Do I have to look it up? Let me see. Barbie. Let's type it in real quick. Uh, Margot Robbie. I'm gonna say something, and you guys are gonna hate me for it, but yeah, there you go, Margot Robbie. I don't like Margot Robbie. I don't like her acting. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in her. I don't like her Harley Quinn. Everybody loves her. I get it. She's easy on the eyes, whatever. I'm not a fan. And I just wasn't I don't like the color pink. So if you're gonna put me in a room to see a giant movie screen that's 50% pink all the time, it's not gonna fly with me. And but I had nothing against the message of the movie. I had nothing against the I heard all the stuff about it. My wife went and saw it with her with my mother-in-law. But I just don't care about Barbie. Sorry. And Oppenheimer, I'm gonna see it. I'm not sitting 3 hours in a movie. I'm just not. I'm tired of 3-hour movies. I like to be able to watch a film, get through the whole thing, and then when the credits are rolling and the credits finish, I rush to the bathroom and take a piss. I don't like getting up in the middle of a film to go piss because it's 3 hours long. I didn't go see Avatar 2: The Way of Water in the theater. I haven't seen it yet on Disney Plus because I have to commit to 3 hours to watch something, and I only saw the first Avatar once in the theater, uh, and I never saw it again. I'm not into the Na'vi, the blue shit. I don't care how good the CGI is. I don't care what the 3D is. I don't care. I don't care about that IP, but I'm happy everyone else loves it. I just don't get it. It doesn't they look weird to me with the skinny bodies, the giant bodies, the long tails, the I can't get into it. I can't. Sorry. All this shit looks like a video game to me. It really does. It looks like gameplay, video game. And yeah, they broke ground with all the every time sure, it took 13 years to make the next film. They broke a lot of ground. They made the visual effects even better. But in the end, fucking looks like a video game to me. Do I like James Cameron? I love James Cameron. Absolutely love James Cameron. The Abyss, absolutely a fantastic film. I love it. I cry every time I watch it. Terminator, fucking A. Terminator 2, yes. True Lies, why we never got a sequel to True Lies, I'll never understand. It's 'cause he started working on his blue fucking fairy tale shit. But that's I mean, I like old James Cameron. The new stuff, I just can't. I get it. It's a gravy train for him, dude, because it's $1 billion, $2 billion every time he drops one of these things. They take too long to make. I never got into it. I don't have any collectibles of Na'vi shit. They made a porno called This Is Not Avatar, Triple X. That was fun to watch, and it was the most expensive porn ever made because they shot it in 3D, and the people were painted and had special effect prosthetic makeup to look like the Na'vi and shit. It was hilarious. I watched it to laugh. That entertained me. The other shit, no thanks. I can pass on that. Every big budget movie is flopping. Yeah, you know why? Because the mid-range middle films that used to go to the theater aren't there anymore. We need them. We need those movies to supplement the if all you're showing are big CGI, fantastical CGI fests with fucking superheroes and Na'vi and shit like that. Why do you think Top Gun: Maverick again, why do you think Top Gun: Maverick did so well? When the general audience, yes, the general audience loved the original one. I loved it. I saw it in the theater. I cried when Goose died. I remember sitting in the theater as a little kid, and when Goose died, I was crying. And people went and saw that movie. This circles back to what I said before about Gotham City and that alley that looks real. People understand fucking airplanes. They've flown in them. Not those, but they've flown in commercial airliners. They get lifting off. They get the military. They get that Tom Cruise and all his crew and all the promos, they put them in real F-18s and flew those assholes up and made them throw up in bags and made them go unconscious. They get it. They don't get the space shit because people haven't gone to fucking Thanos's homeworld. That is that's why Top Gun Maverick did so well. Now, again, the Avatar thing, that did well because it's almost a cultural thing. And Avatar does huge numbers overseas. The Asia, they fucking love Avatar. They do. But movies like Top Gun Maverick, if people keep making movies, and even though Top Gun Maverick was fucking Star Wars, A New Hope, the last act was the trench run. You got to hit a target smaller than 2 meters with one fucking missile and then get out of there before it blows. I mean, literally, I did a video on YouTube, split screen with fucking Star Wars and the trench run with Top Gun Maverick. And yes, the writer just fucking stole it. Again, nothing original. I went, oh, fucking Maverick was great. They stole Star Wars. That's why people connected with. That's why people went back to watch it over and over again, because in their subconscious they didn't realize. It's like in the old cinemas when they used to, 24 frames a second, and they'd clip out a section of it and they'd splice in. It's banned; they can't do it anymore. But they'd splice in a Coke and hot buttery popcorn, and the 1 second would go by, and one frame out of 24 frames, your brain would recognize it, although you wouldn't see it. And then you'd get up to go to concessions and get a refill and get another popcorn. Same shit. They're watching this and they know it's something else, but they don't know what it is, can't put their finger on it. It's fucking Star Wars. That's what it was. People don't want to know. Oh, see, and here we go. The woke label on television and movies now is killing cinema. Yeah, but even like Blue Beetle wasn't woke. Okay. I mean, and let's be honest, The Flash wasn't woke. Okay. People tried saying Barbie was woke. I didn't see it, but from what I understand, you know, I don't think the label is sticking like people think. I think people don't even know what the fuck woke means. And so when they hear it, they think it's a negative thing, but then even the people that covered it saying it was woke all the way up until the movie came out later and was like, yeah, it wasn't that woke. Yeah. But I do think that kind of narrative is killing movies along with Rotten Tomatoes, and the anti-woke people are ruining YouTube. I mean, haters got to hate, grifters got to grift. Look, hate and outrage makes money, period. A channel like mine, I'm not monetized. 6,000 subscribers. I barely can get any traffic because I don't hate on everything. If you fucking hate on everything, the algorithm loves it. And then you got 300,000 subscribers. But if you're fair and nice half the time, and let's say you're like Chris Stuckman that started X amount of years ago. Yeah, he's got 2 million plus subscribers, but he started before the algorithm just jumped on the hate wagon. So yeah, I don't know. All right, so James Gunn. I know, God, we went off. We're an hour and 34 minutes into this one. James Gunn, I still think, has an uphill battle. I don't think he's going to pull DC out. I think Superman is going to underperform. And look, let's be honest. He has a 3-year contract. So this year, including Black Adam, bomb, Shazam, bomb. Like, let's be honest. Like, they can try to say, "Oh, this is all is the head of DC," and his shit ain't doing so good. And he's out there saying, uh, "These the greatest super movie for everybody to watch. Come see." Same with Blue Beetle. You can't blame the strike that the actors couldn't promote the movie because it wouldn't have mattered at that point. People just weren't going out to see it. And that's a shame. DC fans do not support the movies like they should. Uh, and what I mean is, like, don't go see a movie. I saw somebody posted on. They went and saw Blue Beetle. They posted a shot of the cinema screen and all the seats and said, "I'm the only one here." Well, shame on you for not fucking bringing a friend. Really, like, I mean, I get it. I get a lot of these guys don't have girlfriends. I get it. Um, I'm not trying to throw people under the bus, but some girls aren't. Unless you find a girl at a con that dresses and cosplay and stuff, dude. It's so hard for a lot of guys to find people that are into the same shit. My wife doesn't go to any of the superhero shit with me. She doesn't. Um, that's that. Look, we're an hour and 36 minutes. I got 12 people here. Thanks, guys. Look, hit that like button for me, so maybe the YouTube algorithm will catch this live stream. But I'm gonna bounce off and call it a night. This was a fun. I don't do live streams often. This was a fun experiment. Again, I'll try to do more of these if everybody wants me to do them. I wanted to talk about James Gunn and my thoughts on James Gunn. I hope I covered some things. Um, and he's wrong about Christopher Nolan. And I hope Christopher Nolan did not see those tweets because they're going to have a phone call, I bet. All right, guys. Good night. Take care. Thanks, everyone, for commenting and joining the live stream tonight. And we'll see you on the next one. Yeah, we're going to end this broadcast. 3